Welcome to A Flash of Beauty, the podcast, an audio experience dedicated to the further exploration of Bigfoot and the people Bigfoot has revealed itself to. What started with a documentary of eyewitness testimony and expert analysis has now led the film's crew deeper down the path to follow up with those whose lives are forever changed by this cloaked reality. Tune in weekly to join me, your host, Tobe Johnson, and my co-host, Jill Remensnyder, as we go back into the trees to sit down once more with our guest in search of the truth, no matter how strange. Hey, Jill, it's me, Tobe Johnson, with A Flash of Beauty, the podcast. Ever hear of it?
Nice to meet you. Tell me more.
Well, let me tell you, we have this amazing program to offer you. And this one's no different. Actually, we do have a good program, an amazing program, again, with a big hitter on A Flash of Beauty, the YouTube channel. We just talked about his crazy numbers, well over 200,000 views. That means that you're watching him and you love him. Detective, retired cop, captain, in fact, from Houston, Texas. Rick Taylor is joining us here on this next interview that we have for everybody. And boy, Rick, he's got a mountain of evidence, but what else would a detective have, right? So that made a lot of sense. But we go in some interesting directions. He's kind of got the similar point of view that I have, Jill, that something else is happening with this phenomena, and we can reach back into religious texts and historical texts, and we can see that at one time there was this commingling that happened, and we get into what his thoughts are on that as well. That was my big takeaway. Is that's kind of encouraging to find that you don't have to leave your brains at home or your detective skills at home to find out those kind of things. What'd you take away?
Well, there was a lot. And here's the thing. This podcast, when we spoke with him, we could have gone probably for another hour. He could have talked for another hour or two easily. So I think we're having to condense some stuff. So I don't know. Maybe we need to revisit Rick in the future again. Because there were some things that we didn't cover that I'll leave that on the table. We'll come back to it. But what I really appreciated was, like you said, the detective approach, getting into, not just going back after a sighting with your camera to get an idea of like what the distance is and what does it look like now, but actually having someone there with you to go up to the actual spot to figure out where the tree is, and just kind of doing like on the ground like recon to see what's really going on. And I also what I think we could have just talked on for hours is his experience at Arla's.
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
And how that changed him.
Yeah, the Arlen Williams
Yeah.
incident. We dig through the pages of that a little bit because I'm curious about what Arla has going on there. Daryl Adams of the Al Moon Lab moved next to Arla. It sounds like a super interesting and not just a squatchy place, but one of these power spots. And
Definitely.
going to a power spot will change your life, and you get a feeling for that. And I think that's what people are responding to with Rick overall is just like, hey, he calls people the folks. Listen, folks. And, it really brings you in a little bit more like, oh, this guy he knows me now. And, so that's comforting. But for the fact that these power spots do change people, and Bigfoot is just part of the initial, starting of looking into all this stuff. At least it was for me. So, well, let's give people their right to hear it themselves. Here, our interview, Jill, with Rick Taylor. All right, good evening or afternoon, wherever you are, folks. We have today with us Rick Taylor, retired captain with the Houston Fire Department. Hello, Rick.
Hello, sir.
It's good to finally meet you. Jill has already met you, of course, due to your presence in A Flash of Beauty, Paranormal Bigfoot, and we're going to talk about your experience with Sasquatch along the way. But if you hadn't had a chance to catch Rick previous, this is your chance to go check it out. Just scroll on down on the YouTube channel you might already be looking at and find Rick's interview. Rick, you've got well over 100,000 views, I believe, on your interview, if not more. I think it's actually way more than that. And people immediately responded in kind to your testimony, which, I mean, you have some incredible things that you've seen over the years, and we do have some videos and photos we're going to get to along the way. But since Jill kind of knows your coming up story here and the folks that are just maybe meeting you for the first time, why don't you introduce people a little bit about yourself, and then we'll just go off from there.
My career with Houston, covered all three areas of public safety: paramedic, firefighter first, paramedic. Once you went into the fire marshal's office, it was totally separate from riding fire trucks and ambulances. You went back to the police academy. You were trained there. You spent a year with a field training officer, and it was basically plainclothes law enforcement, or a better term, a detective for the fire department as a captain's rank there. My background, as far as my bloodline, my grandmother was full blood Cherokee Indian. My grandfather was mixed blood. His side of the family never registered, so I only pick up the quarter legally. I'm actually over a third. I'm very proud of the Cherokee bloodline, but equally proud of the Scots, Irish, Dutch, and German. It's who I am. I can't be anybody but me. I'm comfortable with it, and I'm proud of it. The Cherokee have a deep history, as many other the native nations, about these subjects. It's not a question or a puzzle to them that these subjects exist. If you study totem figures, uh, pictographs in caves, there's a lot of recorded history regarding the big hairy people, hairy man, uh, that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years. And even today in Oklahoma, some of my documentation, there's a lot of interaction with these subjects. Now, are they telling people outside and publicly relating it? No, they don't want a bunch of people up there creeping around on their land and everything. And I've documented stuff there. I didn't send you any of those pictures, but the Cherokee called them the Uni Udawahi. That's one term mentioned, and loosely translated, forest beings of the lost or forgotten tribe. They would put out edible roots and berries around the perimeter of their villages, and in turn, the big guys would watch over them during hunting and gathering endeavors. It wasn't predatory; it was a symbiote relationship between the two groups. People say, well, yeah, this other tribe had this. Hey, the tribes themselves fought with each other. The Iroquois, better known as the Mohawk, were arch enemies of the Cherokee. And it's kind of funny because the Cherokee language itself comes from the Iroquoian dialects. So somewhere down the line, there was a big family blowout and probably a split, and you got two tribal groups. But it's the same way with the big guys. There are people that go out in the woods and have no problem with them. They're never scared or threatened. And there's other people that go out there probably with guns or whatever they're doing. And there's a few that get scared. And, I mean, it may even lead to them being hurt or killed. They're not benign, and, they can be aggressive. But in my experience, I've never felt threatened. I even had one in Kentucky, which, by the way, Kentucky was part of the Cherokees' original land going back thousands of years before the European settlers drove them out. or the European, well, American government. And by the way, for their own good, being driven out, 4,000 died. I just threw that in there. But government doesn't always know what's right. I was there watching one with night vision scope. We had another one, or at least I heard movement off to one side, and there was a paranormal researcher there. I had shared my scope with him. He was getting a look at one for the first time. And, I asked him in Cherokee. I've always wanted to, I've gone out there before, since it's the original land and the Cherokees have symbiote relationship with them. It only makes sense they might understand Cherokee. And I asked him to come closer. Let's be friends. No response. And this other one got a little closer, though. I said, okay, I'm getting kind of response there. So I told the guy to watch the other one, and I turned to where we were hearing the movement, and I said, Gata uste, Dejado, what is your name? And nothing. I didn't hear anything. So I said it again, Gata uste, Dejado, what is your name? And the second time I said that, over there, and I've got it on audio, I can find it. I get this low bullfrog deep voice that goes, claw, claw. No, I'm not telling you my name. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Stuff like that goes on all the time. I was up in Hanobi, Oklahoma, and I know I haven't got to the pictures yet, but they interact with people in sometimes a prankster way. They'll banter with you. We were having stuff thrown in our camp. I've never had that much stuff thrown, and I've got pictures of some of the stuff that we picked up. We weren't hit, folks. We weren't hit, and they're very accurate. They can put stuff real close to you and not hit you. And one guy there was making this pile of broken branches and rocks and bark. And he was sitting in a folding chair by the fire, and I was standing behind him with my FLIR scope. And I got a couple pictures of one up in a tree peak and a side peaker. And I called the one up in the tree the fire control officer. He's watching, and I don't know if he's directing the other ones or not. They were younger ones, I'm sure. And this guy gets up out of his folding chair, okay? And the only light there is the campfire. And he's sarcastic, tongue in cheek. He goes, can't you guys throw this closer so I don't have to get up? And as he's walking to pick up the bark or rock or whatever it was, I'm right behind the guy's chair. I hear the loud thud. And I look down in his chair, and there's a quarter-size rock placed right on the cushion of his chair after making that statement. Now, folks, that's not, a dumb animal. That's reason. That's bantering, and they were joking back with us. And that's the kind of fun I have out there sometimes. Believe it or not, they can be humorous. And some of their jokes that probably aren't, a lot of people don't like. They love to watch somebody get scared. I'm sorry, somebody to get a little upset.
Right.
They do. So anyway,
Jill,
I've got
you have
a
a question
ahead.
there?
I do have a question, and I might be jumping the gun on this conversation, but I know that you were out in the field, you were a researcher, wanting to have these experiences and some fleeting moments, but it really wasn't. It's my understanding, my takeaway, that it wasn't until you went to Arla's that you had the experience of a lifetime, as Arla said. And I'm just
Yes,
curious if you can talk about how your approach changed after that encounter on Arla's property. What you were doing before you had the encounter, and then how it changed you and how you go out now.
I, you know, when the in my book, and I've related about my son and I night fishing and having a cinder block size rock thrown at us, scared the daylights out of me. Look, I've played competitive sports a lot of my life, primarily softball. Played a little football and in high school, and then partying and girls distracted me there, but never serious enough to even try. I mean, I could compete, but I was too easygoing and had other interests. It wasn't at the top of my list. When that rock was thrown at us, I estimate it to be about cinder block size, and uh, uh, hit the water like a 50-pound child. I knew immediately no animal on North America has an articulating shoulder. Bears and big cats can bat and claw at stuff, but to grip it like with an opposing digit and throw it like a football in an arc, the only people that I know of are humans. And then, of course, there's this, other, what I consider a hybrid human, uh, that can do that. So even though I had this information, Jill and Toby, I still was looking for answers, and the majority of BFRO information and investigators and the investigative world, I guess I won't say the majority, but it's more than half regard him as maybe a descendant of I can't even say it now. I'm double clutching. Gigantopithecus, or anyway.
There you go. Say it 3 times fast.
Yeah, no. So, or an ape or a monkey or
Yeah.
something. And
Yeah, a big ass monkey. That's a
exactly.
there you go.
That's a good
Yeah.
term. And they go out and they whoop and they yell and they bang on trees. And I'm going to tell you folks that the other side there can get offended and they just retreat and they go silent. Okay. They're not there to demean themselves as being okay. They may pretend and scare people, but for the most part, their Achilles heel is curiosity. Okay. They are extremely curious to a fault. And that's not dumb. That's not a dumb intellect there. Okay. That's a very keen intellect. And they're very intuitive. Okay. I went out onto Arla's land for 2 days, banging on trees, giving out a few whoops and calls, and doing what everybody else did. Okay. And I got a big goose egg. Did I get replies? Yeah, I got a few noises, a few things that would cause me to go off in one direction only to find nothing. And then I'd get calls and replies or something. It was calculated. They ran me around like a chicken with my head cut off. Okay. I was seriously trying to see and get interaction because I'd been told they were there. I had an idea they were there. And it was after 2 days on that afternoon or into the second day, frustration hit a high point when three ladies that had taken a lunch break from the drum making workshop. That was what was going on Arla's land. I was just there to kind of lurk around. I wasn't interested in the drum making workshop. Three ladies come in gushing about just seeing one. Okay. They sat down on a rock out there eating their lunch. And one of the ladies looked down the hill towards the creek and saw this head. I mean, saw this subject peeking out at him. And of course, she screams, and the other three, one of them grabs a camera and clicks a picture, and I've got it. She sent it to me and said it's no problem sharing it. I can find it wherever I've got it, but that was frustration to the max.
Well, now
So
pause that just for a second, Rick. Here you are, you have a detective background. You're looking into the subject matter, utilizing that old skill set. I'm sure you can't put it away, right? You can take the
no,
guy out of the police office, but you can't take the police officer out of the guy. So here
no,
you are doing your best diligence to get a response, to initiate activity. You're in a hot spot. It's locked down. No one's hoaxing. And here you are, outgunned by two drum makers. I can understand the frustration, but what does that say instinctually as a detective that they were doing different to get that kind of activity? Did that click in with you immediately?
I was there, and they probably keyed in that I wasn't easy. Uh, they can read people very well, and did I have a big mark, danger, or special interest, or what? They weren't. The ladies weren't out there to find them. They were curious, and one of them happened to look down at the watcher. These subjects will watch from distances, from cover and concealment. I've got many pictures, and they're always in cover. Okay, that's part of their DNA. And I think they perceive that they needed to be extra careful with me, you know, very careful, wide perimeter. This guy's a little different, or whatever. And at that time, and I did get one. I didn't send you that video. After the lady saw the individual, I went down there later, and I did get one down the hill there. We could hear him moving all over. But you got to understand, I had a little RCA small wonder. I know it's somewhere here in the office. It's only got a little 1x1 LED screen, and I was using my monocular as I've done a couple of them. That was my original. I could carry it in my pocket. I didn't have to lug a camera on my back. I could take it out of my pocket. That's why I carried it. And I'm looking at a little 1x1 LED screen in the daylight. So
Mhm.
I saw movement. I knew I was keying on something there, but I didn't know what I had gotten till later, And it's a young one that resembles the one that the lady took the picture of. Could have been the same one.
Mhm.
And he does something that people are going to go, oh man, now what else is going to happen? I actually have for probably a year. I was not sure.
I'm sorry, you guys.
No,
My
that's
I
that's all
have a
right.
candle that's burning and it started to catch on fire to the
I oh
scrapbook.
no. Okay.
So I was trying to
No,
be as
no Bigfoot
cool.
conversation is
I
worth
was
arson with an arson
no
I
detective.
know.
no.
I was like, oh boy.
I
Yeah.
looked. I said, "What?" So
Um,
Okay, sorry
well,
about
that's
that,
okay.
you
I
guys.
had a
no,
quick question here for you, Rick.
sure.
I think
All
we were
right.
saved by the flame. Now, in the video, you mention that guns came into play through Mindspeak,
Yes.
and there's this whole montage in throughout the trailer of you being warned, basically, hey, we know that you have a gun. Why do you have a gun? Is this your first time that you're basically getting Mindspeak about a pistol? And do you think it had something to do with the kind of activity that you weren't having before?
Uh, Possibly, very likely, probably. Anybody that's worked law enforcement for the years that I've worked, and that's their career, uh, a pistol is nothing more than a tool. You can take a carpenter's hammer out of his bag, and if he plants it between your eyes or above, he can kill you as fast with a hammer as he can with a gun. And it boils down to what is the intent of someone's heart, their intentions. If they don't have murder or harm in their heart, they could be carrying an atom bomb on their back and nobody's going to get hurt. That's where the skewed, and I know I'm getting a little political here, but it's not the guns that kill, it's the people holding the guns. It's like saying there's going to be 100,000 people die this year from drunk drivers on the road. Banning or outlawing cars would solve that problem. I mean, it's the person behind the wheel driving the car, and it's the same way with the gun owner or the felon or the criminal. Uh, I, we in law enforcement, we're used to it, used to having them. It's like a set of keys with us. Never give it any mind unless we really needed it. And I kind of preface this by saying my habit of carrying a weapon legally, I am not breaking any laws, honorably retired. I'm legal anywhere in the U.S. or its territories. And if something happens, I'm one of the good guys. I'm not the enemy. Um, I was saved. I was attacked by three feral pit bulls out in my original squatching area by myself. Beautiful fall day, and they came at me, and I wouldn't be talking here right now, folks, if I didn't have the 45 with me. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. They would have ate me up, literally, and it saved my life.
But with those pit bulls, obviously, mind speak isn't a part of the equation here. What I think's fascinating about it is that we've talked about intent and these things being extremely intuitive. Intent comes up time and time again with these witnesses, over and
Yes,
over, certainly with Arla. Now, your intent was to have a pistol with you just based upon it's your job, you're familiar with it, you're not there to hurt them. Yet they still probed you about that. What do you think it was beyond your intent that probing? And there comes a point in here where they say, Arla comes into the scene here, and they remove you from Arla as though
yes.
they were concerned over
Well,
you and that gun. Is that what you took from that?
I took it from it. I was going to be whacked. I mean, I was going to be. They wanted to get me away from her so they could take me out. That was the thoughts that ran through my mind. It's like a police officer. Step away from the car. Something was going to happen. And I had already, in that mind speak, I had replied to them. It was a tool I carried on my job. I carried it around my close friends and family. I've never hurt them with it, and I will not hurt you now. And that's when they separated me, folks. That was the hardest 20 to 30 steps I've ever taken, because I don't do vulnerable very well, and that entire area was full of heavy movement. I mean, I knew there were multiple big subjects there. And that picture, the dark one that I shared with you, I actually clicked that picture holding my camera, and I was nervously clicking pictures as I was walking. That's it. That's
Okay,
in
let's
the
let's
that's
bring
in
that
the
up here. Let me see
all
if I
right.
can get a better view. Explain what we're looking at here, Rick.
Okay, that's foliage. I had the camera facing at a perpendicular angle from the direction I was walking, and I wasn't clicking it intentionally. I didn't know that I was nervously fidgeting and snapping, and it didn't have a flash. But if you look right in the center of the picture, go to the top, that's not hair, that's a leaf
Okay.
over the forehead of the subject. Right below that light leaf spot, you can see his dark, deep set brow ridge, and you can see his nose. He's peeking out of a very leafy area of foliage. Looking, and this isn't in telephoto, that's the real distance. I'm walking by him, and he's on my right side looking
Mhm.
at me as
Now,
I
Rick,
pass.
you enhanced this photo, didn't you? Is this what the
Yes, I
brown
did.
image is?
Yes,
Okay.
that's there.
Mm.
There you go. That's the same photo enhanced. You can see his nose, his nostrils, the deep set eyes, and you can see that thin lip. They don't have real, pronounced lip, but you can see he's watching me. And the light colors are the leaves that were reflecting the moonlight, the 2/3 moonlight. But
Mhm.
yeah, he's just in foliage, and basically probably looking down at me, taller than I am, but he's within arm's reach. I mean, uh, that's probably the closest, other than the little one in my story. But that was just one. There were a bunch around there, but I happened to catch him right as I passed, watching
What,
me.
Rick? What do you estimate? Like when you say it was looking down at you, what was the like? What kind of angle? Like how tall do you estimate
I'm
that one
six.
was?
I'm 6 foot, and I'm just guesstimating. I probably wasn't holding the camera. I had it probably tilted at kind of an angle, fidgeting. I would estimate 7 to 8 feet at least. I'm 6 feet, and it's up in an angle, a foot or two. Now, the big alpha male that stepped out later, we went back to the branch. I remember the branch he stepped out from. He was right at 12 feet,
Hmm.
and that individual had been seen before by people. He was the big alpha male, massive, probably pushing 900 pounds, but he was the keeper of this family group or clan. I mean, anything that happened had to go through him, and I sure wouldn't want to be on his bad list. And
I
that
want to
was
be a little bit selfish here with Arla and your experience there, since it's what we get into the documentary. We should remind people that there were ghost experience. There was a specter of some kind experience.
yes,
Well, you didn't know that at first. You thought it was an attendee, a little girl that had wandered into the woods with you. So that was, unfortunately, that was skipped over the whole story as it pertains. But we talked about this in a previous podcast as well with somebody, the dead having something to do with the phenomena. Do you think that you saw the visage of a dead little girl, or is this something different?
well, my core belief is, okay. I'm not a religious man, Toby. I'm a spiritual man. But I uh, I haven't been able to get into that full experience yet. I was raised Lutheran, and as many people do when they get into their teenage years and kind of get out of the nest, they go into doing things that they shouldn't, and it wound up hard partying and drugs nearly killed me. I had a near death experience, um, taken to the very gates of hell. And it wasn't my religious upbringing, but it was the word that I learned there that actually saved me from falling right in that horrible place. And I began to meditate on those words and things that I had learned, and I wound up waking up in this party, and there's people crying, thinking I was dead. And when I got up off the floor, it was like they saw somebody coming back from the dead, scared the daylights out of everybody. And I was scared because I'm going to tell you that place is terrifying. And I looked over at my brother and I said, "We need to get the hell out of here." That's a whole other story. But I do, in the Bible, the 6th chapter of Genesis, it talks about the sons of God, the Ben Elohim, that have relations with earthly women, and giants were produced. I believe these subjects have both a physical uh, attributes. I believe they're a hybrid human, but I believe they're also part spiritual entity that allows them to do some very incredible things that I've documented some of it, cloaking, the video. I've got them shape shifting. I tend to not go into the paranormal because it's hard for people to believe Bigfoot exists. So I'll stay on that line. But I've got a lot of incredible stuff that I won't call it unbelievable, but I tend to keep that very close to me. But that particular night in Arliss, and I don't know how they tie in, but as you both well know, there's a lot of sightings around graveyards. Okay. A lot of Bigfoot activity tied there. I don't know the tie in there, but yes, I saw this young, dark headed lady in a flowing white gown, almost gliding down the trail. And Arla asked me about it later. She said, "You saw her." And I said, "Brittany." "Yeah, that was Brittany." She says, "No, that wasn't Brittany. Brittany never came down that trail." Yeah, yeah. I've had several instances of seeing something
So Arla was unfazed by this. She knew.
Oh no,
Did
yeah,
she
yeah,
know who you had seen? Was she familiar with what ghost that
yes.
was?
That image is often seen around in that area. They call her the lost girl, or I don't know,
Hmm.
something there. But yeah, she
Yeah.
makes appearances there, and it's kind of like an older, almost like a night dress type
Hmm.
looking thing, I guess,
Yeah.
or robe or whatever. But yeah, and when I can't remember if I think I maybe even said Brittany. She I mean, just dipped, spun, and was gone. It was, and then I'm back looking at the big guy there. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're, they wanted to know. Uh, I've never been asked that question again. I've had them close to me, and they know my heart. I would never harm them, even if I could. And trust goes a long way with them. And
Hmm.
I try to be respectful and trust them. They like to prank around. Okay. I was in Kentucky at one of the KBRO expeditions. Charlie Raymond heads up KBRO and his lovely wife, Lindsay. Great couple, great organization. I was up there with a newbie, and I know they come up at night. Folks, when I get finished doing the expedition stuff, the only thing I care about is sleep. I'm not getting up to interact with them. I want them to let me sleep. I'll see you tomorrow or tomorrow night, but I want my sleep right now. And the younger ones, I mean, I've had them tapping on my fender, shaking my truck. And I kind of play with them a little bit. And then I just ask them, I let me sleep, and it usually stops. It'd be a persistent one. But I was up there in Kentucky, and one of the guys there, his wife didn't come. He had a 35-foot RV trailer. Instead of my camper shell and little tin arrangement that I make, he said, "Hey, Rick," he said, "spend the night in the RV." He said, "Sofa sleeper in the living room. I'm not going to be using it." Well, I didn't pull it out into a sofa sleeper. I took his invitation and I put my sleeping bag, my pillow on the sofa. About three in the morning, we'd been out to about like one, maybe two. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm sacked out on the sofa there on the side of the living area, that RV trailer, and I wake up and I raise up and I'm looking around like, what woke me up? And nothing, man. It's quiet. I can hear the little refrigerator run, a little bit of night noises and a couple LED lights from, in the kitchen area there. So I lay back down. Now, folks, I hadn't made a lot of noise. I don't know if anybody outside how they could pinpoint where I exactly was, but when I laid back down, right on the wall next to that sofa, right where my head was, I get 3 taps. Sounds like knuckles on the side of the RV trailer going tap, tap, tap. And I raise up and I said, I could have looked out the window, probably seen, ugly, hairy face there, and right, because his window was right over. They might have been tapping on the window. I don't know. But I said, "Look, would you please let me sleep?" Nothing. I slept like a baby the rest of the night. And I asked that owner, he was a newbie. He was there, looking for answers. I said, "Did you hear me talking last night?" And he goes, "No." I said, "Look, they're coming up to the trailer." Well, he gave me a polite but incredulous stare, and okay. It's hard for people. Look,
Right.
it's
Right.
hard, for people to wrap their mind
Bless your
around
heart,
that.
Rick. Yeah.
Exactly, So
Yeah.
so the next day we cooked up a bunch of hamburgers. They had a big potluck thing going, and a couple of 3 or 4 of the patties fell through the grate. It was a big stoned in grill outside, great place. And we left them there. We're not going to pick them out and mess with them. So we had the potluck dinner. We went out on expedition again till after midnight. Kind of humid, sticky, and he had hookups there for his trailer. Nice bathroom, but across the road right there, they had individual rooms, like 6 of them in a building with a bench, a big shower, your own toilet and sink, all tile, and you lock the door. The privacy, a lot better than cramp in a small trailer, shower. So he grabs his stuff. He says, "Hey, Rick, I'm going to go across the street and grab a shower." I'm on the sofa downloading sound, files and stuff, night vision and stuff. I don't know if I had anything really substantial. There was a little bit there. I remember that. So he steps out the back door, which was right by the sofa, and I hear the thud, thud. Two of his steps, and all of a sudden the trailer kind of shook. The door swings open, and he dives in with his eyes wide open, and he goes, "There was something big out there." Just ran away, and I never looked up at him. I kept kind of typing and downloading. And after about 5 seconds, I looked up at him and I said, "I told you so." What had happened was he went out that door, and as he looked up, right where that pit fire was, there was a big one down, squatted down, picking the hamburger up out of the grill. He's got this real dim porch light. It jumps up and looks at him. He stops, and then he jumps back inside. But yeah, he found out they do come up around the trailer. That the big guy wasn't expecting them to come out. They
Right,
thought
right.
we had turned in for the night, and him opening the door surprised him. The campers next door, we talked to them the next morning and told them about. They said, "Yeah, we heard somebody running through the woods by our camp. We couldn't figure out who'd be running in the dark."
Right.
Cooperation. Other people heard the big guy.
Now,
Okay,
Rick, tell us about this photo here.
okay. That tree is about 10 yards in front of the subject. I'm at 75 yards, and this is a telephoto shot. Okay. I've had people say, "Oh, that's just a little doll up in the tree." See, they don't know what they're talking about. They didn't know the layout here. I had 2 BFR investigators. By the way, the guy that had the experience up there in Kentucky, he was there. I had 3 other people there. We were walking down a road there in Sam Houston National Forest, and a lot of activity in that area. This was to the our left. We were going, right to left, yeah. Anyway, parallel to where he's looking. And one of the people saw something move uh, and said, I see movement. Well, I stopped. I started my camera going. I zoomed in, and I picked him out at 75 yards. Now, this is from a video I'm shooting. My autofocus is going crazy between him and the leaves of the tree. It went back and forth, back and forth. I didn't have a tripod, so it's real jiggly, but this is one of the frames that come out real clear. If you look at those leaves in the middle top, right below that, you can see the subject's nose. You can see his cheek and part of his hair, which is covered by hair on the left, his left side. Your right. You can see his other eye to the opposite side. If you go down past the light leaves, you can see his left shoulder. It'll be to your right. And then down lower, you can see part of his lower torso. He was behind a stump. And when we looked over there, he froze. Okay. He froze like what you see here, was not moving. I think this tree maybe blocked some of but the thing about this story, he's not looking at me, folks. If you look at his face, I'm here. He's looking off to my left. Okay. While I'm taking this picture, we're on a low water bridge about 75 yards away, and there is a loud thump, 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 thump on the wooden bridge, which scares the daylights out of all of us because I'm thinking we're getting charged. So we all jump and spin and look, and lo and behold, this young lady, was probably in her late 20s or early 30s, who must have lived in a gym, okay, and was wearing a skin tight black spandex jogging suit. Okay. I'm old, but not too old. I mean, the lady was a racehorse. Okay. This subject here, which I think is a young male, was watching her jog. This location had two very good tactical positions to watch that trail. And if you go around on his backside, there's an area where the trail curves around. You can get a lot of extended looks. Now, we didn't go into the brush. This was high uh, uh, chigger season and ticks and snakes. Matter of fact, I killed a copperhead down the trail that occurred. Well, this jogger, I mean, we all startled. And then when we saw who it was, I turned back and dropped lower to try to get a better angle on this subject. He was gone. Okay. He was gone. But I must confess, even trying to document a Bigfoot, that lady was, she warranted or dictated at least another glance at her 6 o'clock. Okay.
Well, now, so this is interesting you say that because, Ron Moorhead's daughter, Rhonda, has spoken at length about her experiences in the high Sierras with what appear to be adult male Sasquatches that are watching her. And
Yes.
she felt as though there was something very human going on. You've heard this before from male witnesses with female Sasquatch. There's a pretty well known one that we talked about last week out of Canada. So, now let's go back to what you're talking about with Genesis 6. Seems to all make sense. This human quality seems to override the primate quality immediately.
Absolutely. And there are a lot of native stories about being kidnapped and in turn become pregnant. Now, you can't, unless you are very close genetically, that won't happen. Okay. And there are stories about them being hair covered and very good hunters and were an asset to the tribe. I know the Cherokee have uh, stories about Saul Kalu that would married one of the Cherokees and would not come into the village only at night to be with her, and he would always bring back deer and game for the village. He was a great hunter. I mean, it suggests possibly one of the big guys, that took a Cherokee wife. Now, I hope that's not in my I hope that's not in my DNA,
Hey,
but
don't knock it till you try it, Rick. Come on.
Hey,
You're an
Rick,
adventuresome man.
I do have a question though. In that area, are there reports of missing people? I mean, do you think
Yes.
there could be a chance that they are taking people off the trails?
If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Uh, I've talked with a lot of people about this, and in your areas of Canada, very rural areas in the Northwest, a clan or a group does not want controversy. They don't want attention. They don't want danger. But just as in our society, you've got family oriented people, respectable. I think in the Bigfoot social structure, you will get rogue males that don't fit in, can't find a mate, and they will go into rural areas and cause trouble. I mean, we've got our criminal psychopaths in our society. There's areas of our major cities you don't want to be there at night. And yes, I feel there are dangerous ones out there, but generally, a family group or clan will not tolerate those individuals. They'll either kill them or banish them off somewhere. But no, I'm not. I'm not saying they're all warm and fuzzy. The overwhelming majority are, but yeah, there's missing people, and I've talked with David Politis at length. He's a very experienced investigator, done a world of documentation, and there are people coming up missing uh, for no reason at all, under very, very odd circumstances, and probably opened up another can of worms here. I have documented on one of my Bigfoot, uh, uh, close encounters, delta shaped lights in the sky that were turning all kinds of different colors. Yes, I'm just telling you what I saw, folks. I mean, it is what it is. And I've actually got pictures of these small, it's with night vision. One, two, three. There may be others in other foliage. They're about 3 foot tall. They have a alien look. They look like the little grays that you see in these. And they were in front of an 8 foot female. Was she running with them? I don't know, but they were there and watching me. And I'm glad I didn't get a good look at them at the time. One of the guys there was a federal police officer. He thought I was standing by a gate and went up there. I was about 100 yards away, and I hear him go, "Hey, Rick!" And I went, "What?" And then I heard him yell, "Get over here!" There was one of these, or someone by the gate. He thought it was me, and it wasn't. So I don't
Rick,
know.
Rick, have you had experience with the hitchhiker effect?
No,
You
no,
haven't had any phenomena follow you home?
no. Well, they say if you go visit them, they'll come visit you. I didn't send you the picture of out. It was in December 20th, 2013, in my front yard there in Rockwall County. I'll just leave it at that. And I was watering a line of trees. And as I was returning, the porch light was not that bright. It was past dusk, and I thought it was a crow, a nighthawk, or an owl, because I never heard footsteps. But as I'm heading back to the faucet to turn off the water, we had about a 3/4 acre lot in this. We had the biggest lot in the subdivision there. I heard and I saw at a peripheral something go by me, just a whoosh, and I felt the wind. I thought it was, a diving past by a bird because I didn't feel the footsteps. And I went up, I rolled up the hose. I didn't see anything, didn't think anything more of it. But I had put up a 24/7 security system outside and a motory game cam to supplement over our front porch because, and we'd take another hour. I tell you the stuff that went on out there in around our property, not in our house and not in our backyard, but I'll just say it concerned my wife. I thought it might be kids pranking. I just didn't know whose kids they were. But I caught a picture of what I think was a juvenile Bigfoot blasting past me. As I walked in front of the porch, that Motory game cam IR flash triggered, but you'll see me 6 foot, 240 pounds, and there's this skinny, hairy thing with its hair blowing back like like riding a motorcycle as he flew past me. And I think he was just pranking. He could have slapped me. I mean, there's no way. I've got these subjects moving on night vision. It looks like a video on fast forward. Can all of them do it? I don't know, but it's like just a blur of how fast they can move when they want to. Not just, the regular or not even the running, but even witnesses have said going 45 or 50 miles an hour, they look out and here's this subject almost like floating by them. I don't know how they do that either, but
Right, it could potentially a spinoff series, Gerald, Blur of Beauty.
Rick, that reminds me of when we interviewed Rich Germeau, and he talked about when he went out to check his cameras and he started to look up and he was looking like straight ahead. There was a Sasquatch, and he talked about the remarkable speed and then it went from standing, how it dropped down like in
Right.
one fell swoop.
Right.
And he just could not wrap, he realized that there was no escaping it. And like I believe he said that he runs through the blackberries or the brambles to get away from it into his car. But it lines up with what you're saying about the incredible speed.
One of the guys that I go, uh, I've been with him on several BFRO expeditions, a lot of KBRO. Great guy, Lou Padilla, and since as you know, if you've on my Facebook, I started playing guitar again, all because of the lovely and talented Orianthi. A lot of people don't know who she is, but she's been around for a long time. Had a couple double platinum songs. Uh, I recently, started playing again. Of course, we went up there to one of the expeditions. He came over to my tent. We went over chord progressions and stuff. We did some Stevie Ray Vaughan, some good stuff, man. I mean, I hadn't played like that, and I'm only several months back into playing, so I'm real rusty. But it was amazing. Well, Lou was at one of the expeditions, which I wasn't on. He had his daughter and some people in a tent. It was after dark, and he thought that there was somebody looking in their tent, door there, squatted down. And he's out on the road, and his daughter's in the tent. He wants to know who that is. And he starts up the trail there, and he gets about halfway over there, and he yells for his daughter, and whoever is squatted down stands up, looks at him, and he asks, "Who are you?" And about that time, he said it was like a movie picture. He said, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, he said it was just like a flash. I mean, just like on fast forward, and they were gone. And then it dawned on him it was a Bigfoot. They were just curiously watching the girls inside the tent. They weren't hurting them, but he happened to see that. And it really it makes me feel good when people have an experience and they realize, wow, those people are telling the truth. They're not embellishing. I'll tell you a story, and I think I've still got the mattress. I spoke at the uh, Ozark Mountain, conference, the end of September. Had a great time, and we went out camping. It was supposed to be for 4 days, but I had to attend my baby sister's memorial out on the West Coast. Passed away from cancer. Valiant fight, great girl, great little sister, a lady of faith, and she's comforted and better place now. I was, I had a friend of mine go with me at the conference, and then spent the 2 nights there. Well, I didn't sleep in my camper shell because I'm not spending bed with another man. I don't care how close. No, that's not happening. I'm not sharing a bed with a man. I mean, if other people want to, that's their business. But so I got out a little 10 by 10 gazebo that I use, and I tarp it in. I put tarp, all around. It was like a tent, but there's no gap. I mean, there's a space at the bottom of the tarp. Anybody could reach in. Our second night there, I'm sacked out. It's about 3 or 4 in the morning, and I hear this buddy of mine on the other side. We're 2 or 3 feet apart on separate air mattresses. I hear him slapping his air mattress, and I'm jumping up, and I'm wondering what's going on. It's real dark. I didn't turn on a light. I just jumped up and I'm listening. He stopped slapping his air mattress, and I, I waited for him to say something, and he didn't. He drifted back off to sleep. I laid back down and went off to sleep. Next day, he goes, "Did you hear me slapping my air mattress?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Man, something was pushing on me," And I said, "Really?" Now they have that particular camp. The year before came in, they went through people's ice chests. One of the guys there, Randy Harrington, heard somebody getting in his ice chest and getting some power drink or whatever. He said, "Hey, can I help you?" And it went silent. He could hear the lid close, and of course, there was footprints all around. They came in, and two newbies that stayed up got their first sighting of two of them that were lurking around. Well, they came in again. Well, he said, "Look, Rick, I think something pushed on me." He said, "But I could have dreamt it. I'm not sure." But as the day went on, he said, "Rick, I'm certain I didn't dream that." I said, "Well, that's your call. I heard you slapping your air mattress." Fast forward, my two daughters were staying over. I grabbed the air mattresses. I tried to blow them. They like that. They don't like my office guest bedroom. They like to sleep in the living room. So we put the air mat. They make little tents and all stuff. What little girls and little boys like doing. And one of them was not holding air. And I got to looking at it. I said, "Man, that's the one my buddy used." Long story short, I should have sent those pictures. There are nail mark scratches going from the middle of that air mattress down to the end, which would have been at his feet, where their claws would have left the sharp. No, these are a rounded nail mark, and it actually punctured or made a hole in part of the air mattress. Very distinctive
Oh, wait.
scratches.
So pause that for a second, Rick. You're saying that the meaty part of the finger, you can kind of see where it warped the plastic as it pulled.
Well, it almost looked like skin, where if you took your fingers, but the nails themselves dug kind of a wide scrape, and at one point it made a small hole in the air mat. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, and I called him up. I said, "Hey, I don't think you were dreaming." He had one messing with him. That was this last year. There's a lot of activity there, and we'll probably go back there next year. It's a great place. Go ahead.
Well, real quick, in the time that we have left here, I want to get to at least one of these videos here. Time's just flying by with Rick. Let's play the one where you're narrating here. It's about a tree stand. It's about 3 minutes here. So let me click this here. Go full screen, and you can talk over this, I
Oh,
believe.
okay.
I don't know if it's anything. It's a dark shape up there in the trees.
That's Tim. He's trying to find out. This is 528 yards up the
From
hill.
the deer stand, same
Okay.
height, about
Deer
20
stand was
degrees
to the
right.
left. I'm trying to give him, 20 degrees over up in the tree.
trees up there.
You'll hear it call second
Okay,
call.
Put the binoculars down. That joker looks like
I'm
it's
looking
moving.
through that small LED
I'll
screen.
be able to see it in the
Again,
video. I'm thinking there's something
there's
in
the
the trees.
call.
See that? Go down the hill. You see that one tree
It
that's kind of leaning?
called to me to get my
A
attention.
bunch of them are straight, and if you shoot, it's a small one. Yeah, small one up close
There's
to
my
us.
binocular
Go over
getting out of.
another 20 feet from there.
I'm
See
trying
that
to
dark
point
spot between
and
the
hold
trees up
that,
there?
and
Go back up in
all
the
right,
trees.
now I get it back. I get it back centered again.
There, I got it back on video.
There. Yeah. He's in a real thick loblolly. These small ones blowing by the wind are between me and him.
I got a good video of it.
I've got pictures of where he was sitting. Not in there. I didn't go 60 feet up, but
it looks like it's
if you notice, you'll see his hand move a little bit down there as that tree moves. He's kind of fidgeting with his fingers a little bit. You can see the sheen on his hair and everything.
Okay. I just paused it for a second here. So that call that we heard, that wasn't one of you guys.
No, that
Okay.
came up from up the hill. And I've got another video. When I went out there the next week, they were doing it again. They were calling at me.
And this is in the middle of the day?
Well, this was about 3 PM.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
I was with Arla was there. What's that? I'm trying to think of that. Anyway, there was about 12 of us, and I was helping gather firewood. We were down the hill, and I got the feeling of being watched. Okay, I can't turn it on or off. When it comes, and I can sometimes directionally know where it's coming from. I can feel them, is the best way I can put it. I walked away from the group, so I wasn't distracted by all the dialogue, but you can hear them talking in the background, a distance from me. And I
Right.
started walking back towards my park pickup. And all I said was, I didn't yell it out. I said, okay, big boy, I can feel you watching me. Where are you? And that's when the first call came, you know,
And this
up
is
the
the
hill.
video. This is what we're talking about right here. Okay. Let's see
Yeah.
let's play
Yeah.
the rest of it here. I'm curious about what happens. I haven't watched it all the way through.
It's pretty
I just shut it off.
yeah, I'm getting decent video.
You can see his head turn a little bit. He's in a shaded area. This is another little short clip.
Earlier.
You can see him a little bit better, but I was having problems getting the
Right. And for
camera on him.
the people that are, unfortunately, people are maybe watching this as a podcast right now. What we're seeing right now, these videos here are available on YouTube. If you want to see this video yourself, it's pretty remarkable because you're at over, would you say over 400 yards?
528 yards.
And you're
Wow.
using a secondary camera through the
Yeah.
viewfinder? Yeah.
Yeah. I
Fascinating.
mean, it was very fortunate to even get. I would have loved to have had some of the stuff that Jill, I could have gotten. I'm going to tell you the backstory that I could kick myself. My wife had her Minolta there, and she had like
Yeah.
a 300 millimeter lens on it. You know, it
Oh,
didn't dawn on me, Jill and
Rick, do you
Toby.
know how many times that we've been out there, out in the woods or out looking at the sky? And I think a lot of people can relate to this. You're witnessing, you're experiencing something. You're caught up in the moment. You're trying to make sense of what is playing out in front of your eyes. The idea of like, hold on, let me get my camera and make sure the lens is right, and let me check the aperture, and oh, blah, 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 blah.
What
It doesn't register. You know what I mean? Until after the
exactly?
fact.
People don't understand. The layperson doesn't understand exposure, the light source, depth of field, all of this stuff playing in to getting a great picture of these subjects. Okay. It is very subjective, it's very quick. And I'm just, I'm thinking that's probably the best extended. And I'd have probably got better if Tim hadn't been there distracting me because he walked up right when I
Arr.
start, hey, what are you doing? Where is, if I'd have been by myself, I thought, hey, Jane, wife, come here, bring your camera, but the guy wasn't, I mean, he called out to me then. And then I didn't send you the video of the one where I returned the next week. I'm down there by myself, parking and getting. The only way we found where that subject was, people said, why didn't you walk up there? There's two ridges, okay, and only one road. You leave your reference point and everything changes. You have no reference points. It's not like you can just walk through all the trees and brush and bushes and say, yeah, it's right. No, everything looks different. So the only way we identified where that subject was, I got in my original position. I got my camera and everything set up the same way. And a guy went up the hill with a walkie talkie, and I watched him in the gaps. I said, no, further over, no, further over. And I got him positioned on that ridge down. He wasn't 60 feet up in the tree, but I got him in the position where I saw the subject. He looked through the ravine, saw the trees and everything. Said, "Rick, you got to come up here," And we identified the tree. One, I'll say this much, and I'm not going to name drop. DNA samples were taken from that area, that tree, and it was part of what mainline science poo poos. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Aggravating.
Okay. It sounds like a familiar study that was done a little bit ago. So,
Yes.
okay. So, Rick, you have a lot of photographic and video evidence that you're always posting. Are you
Yeah.
working on finding the perfect camera system to have with you so it's constantly ready to go? Or what are you doing to like preemptively strike the subject before it flees and flashes and blurs away?
You know, when I get out there, and a lot of people have a lot of experienced FLIR, and thermal cameras, all I've found is they show you more leaves and twigs and artifact that you're not, interested in. I use the real inexpensive FLIR TK Scout, and it naturally filters out a lot of the artifact. It shows me where they are, and I can, in most cases, identify them. I may get a better thermal, but they maintain cover so well. Uh, I've reached the point where, yeah, if I can get something on them, yeah. My other better video camera broke. Uh, I like primarily at night, and I've got some pretty good FLIR stuff. Man, if you want to do this again, I can show you. I've got one behind us about 20 feet. I watch him for a while, and I'm with a group, KBRO. No, this was Ozark Mountain Group, Southern Missouri, and I don't want to tell anybody. I mean, Lou's there. There's four other people on the little creek beach with me. If I would have said, "Hey, there's one," forget it. He'd be gone. So I'm just watching him. I'm and that FLIR naturally filtered out a lot of the leaves and foliage he was hiding behind. Got a good video of him. He's all hunkered down in this trunk gnarl, and he's just watching. Well, when we get ready to leave, I've got always have a 24. I got the digital running all the time. When we're leaving, Drew, the guy I told you about, he's with me, and I stop and I said, and it's on the audio. I said, "There's one behind us," and he goes, "Well," I said, "There's one behind." Look, that's all I said. All three or four of them take off, and I got a pretty good video of the one ducking through the brush leaving. It's a cool audio night vision video. But look, they did not move until I said they're behind us.
Right.
They understood. And of course, I started following, and I hadn't gone 20 feet. Drew said, "Rick, you've got 20 more feet, then you're on your own." It,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
got another video thermal. I'm with Charlie Raymond and Lindsay Raymond. Okay, we're on a trail. Charlie sees eye shine, and for those of you that don't know, their eyes emit light. It's not a reflection. You've got to have ambient light to reflect, and when you're in pitch dark and you see eyes, that's production. That's luminescence. That's not reflection. And I've seen it in red. I've seen it in blue. I've actually seen it in bright white, almost look like holding two pin lights. I don't know if it's the intensity of their emotions or what, but when they go blink, blink,
Yep.
it's coming from the eyes. And so uh, Charlie saw eye shine. Well, I stopped. There was a little trail heading off. I went down about 50 feet and I see a side peeker. And I yell back to Lindsay, you know, I said, "Hey, have you got your FLIR? Come up here." And she comes up there and I tell her where to look. I said, "Do you see him? He's beside the tree." And she goes, "Yeah." My game plan was that I would I had to use the FLIR to look down because it was that dark. And so I'm breaking contact, but I'm moving forward. My game plan was to leapfrog with her. Lindsay didn't move. She stayed. She did not want to get any close. I made a couple of trips closer, and the subject actually retreated. And I think there were several more behind him. And then as we're leaving, I see the deer over here to the left. I think we interrupted a hunting endeavor there when we were walking along the trail. The deer was here, and they were
Hmm.
behind it, probably. But no, did they threaten? No, they just they moved back. I just wanted to get a better look. Um, in Wisconsin, I've got one belly crawling. Got some good. He's coming through some tall grass, and I'm thinking, is that a hog? I'm
Hmm.
expecting something tall and big coming through. He's down on, I think it's his elbows and knees. He's not spider crawling like some people have seen him. He's kind of crawling like a soldier, And I've got a good video on that. It's through the grass, so it's not crystal clear, but you can
Right.
see his elbows and his knees, and he's making pretty good progress with it. And they're on both sides of me. And I'm not scared. I've got them on the side of me and I'm going forward. But you'll see my FLIR. I'm looking to both sides because I don't want one to sneak up on me and tap me on the shoulder. I don't want that. If they want to come up and approach me, let me see you. Don't.
Right.
I don't. I wasn't carrying any extra underwear. I don't need that.
Hey, Rick, my last question to you is regarding
I apologize. My hay fever's kind
oh
of.
no, that's fine. My last question to you though regarding your appearance in A Flash of Beauty, has that um, given you any opportunity for answers as far as people recognize you from the show? Have people reached out
Yeah.
to you privately? Have they filled in some of these gray boxes of questions you have as an investigator?
I've had more activity on my Facebook, page. I've spoken to. Oh, I see one. you know, not a lot. I mean, I'm a little bit guarded about being a public figure. I like my privacy. Um, I'm very cordial. I like people, but coming from my career in explosions, major uh, fatalities and stuff, the news media can be very vicious at times. They'll take little bites here, little bites there, and they won't leave the context in the middle. They'll put them together, and they can almost turn around 180 degrees what you're saying. So I'm a little guarded about a lot of heavy public exposure. I like speaking, I like sharing and everything. I just so appreciate Jill and Brett for letting me tell my story. Uh, no boundary, just tell it like it is, and that's hard for people to accept. My daughter-in-law, my son will not go out with me. That rock throwing incident, he does not, he's not interested. I don't know who he is. He's from England, UK, wanting to do a reenactment on the rock throw, kind of whatever. And he wanted my son to be in it. And I asked my son. My son said, "No, not interested, Dad." And of course the producer said, "Well, if you can't get your son, we can't do it." So I mean, I respect my son. He don't want. But anyway, I was out there with my daughter-in-law's family in Beavers Bend, Oklahoma. It's eastern Oklahoma, north of Broken Bow. My daughter-in-law's family would have family reunions out there, and folks, that Beavers Bend Park area is squatchy. Okay, I mean, my Squatch magnet was going off, and I did think I observed two subjects across the river up on the hill, just watching. They weren't, they just curious. Well, we're sitting around that night around a campfire, and there's like 35 people there. Okay. Big campfire. There's kids and adults, and really good just hanging out, kicking back family, family time group. Well, one of the guys there, some of them knew I did Bigfoot research. And he, in conversation, he just out loud, he said, "Hey, Rick, how's your Bigfoot research coming along?" Well, I get these 35 people all turning, and some of them are giving me that, "What?" I mean, I'm sure it happens to a lot of people. They can identify with what I'm saying. Well, anyway, I said, "Yeah, it's going okay." And I said, "As a matter of fact, up on the hill," and I pointed, across the river. I said, "I think, and so saw it too, and what are the chances of a healthy oak tree, no rot, no high wind, no forces to cause it to split right down the middle. While I'm talking, about 100 feet away, this big oak tree it sounded like a rhinoceros coming through the woods. It was all kinds of noise. Couple people jumped up to run and it crashed, and then everything went silent. Of course, guys are grabbing their flashlights and running over there. What happened? I'm just sitting in my chair kind of nervously, and there's a few people looking around at me. Sadly, they've never invited me back to another family.
Hey, easy come, easy go.
Yeah, Rick. You don't need them.
I mean,
You can come to our family reunion with
I
stories
mean,
like that.
my wife was there. I mean, they put a big exclamation point. I mean, right at the time I'm talking about them being around there, that big oak tree just pulled in, and their power. That's another thing, folks. Have you seen the video from Canada of one of them actually throwing pine trees like a javelin?
Oh, the construction crew that recorded that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Those aren't
If people
small
haven't a
trees.
chance to see that, go see Thinker Thunker's
Oh man.
rebuttal on that. Well, it's not a rebuttal, it's kind of proof that it's actually happening. But this kind of goes to, I mean, now that we have podcasts coming out in order, and I know the order, we can kind of speak to these things, Jill. One of the things that we talked about earlier was the hero concept. And what I hear you describing, Rick, is that you're putting these things kind of as the hero in your world. I wonder if that's why you're not getting more activity, is that you're not running away from the phenomena, you're leaning into it and you're kind of giving them the glory of it. Do you think that has something to do with it?
I think they recognize I'm not afraid of them. Okay. I think they recognize that I respect them as a tribe or clan of people and not some animal. And I try to, in my heart, be respectful to them. And I've asked them, please let me sleep. I've talked to other people that have gotten scared and said, please don't do that. That scares me. And it stops. Okay. On the flip side, when I was down in the bottoms with 5 newbies, one guy was an active Ponca City. Was it Ponca City? Anyway, he was an active police officer, public safety, and he was scared. Guess who all of the objects were landing by? I saw a grapefruit sized rock right behind. Nobody was hit, but he jumped 3 feet in the air, and I'm sure they were laughing and having a good time, like chasing a chicken or something. They didn't hurt anybody, but they were having a great time messing with that guy. They even threw, and I've got pictures of it. Tom Johnson, he's a retired NASA expert. He did a lot of work on the Apollo videos and pictures during the lunar moon missions. He was up there with us. He had come by my little there in Honolulu at the Honolulu Bigfoot conference. Came by and saw my pictures and stuff. And I told him there's a place nearby where we can get activity. So he was next to this big oak tree sitting on a root knot, and that police officer was on the other side. How they do this, folks, I don't know, but that limb was about 2 to 3 feet long and about 5 to 7 inches in diameter. It smacked that 3 foot diameter oak tree right between the two men and scared the daylights out of that Ponca City police officer. I've got that on audio. That's
That's a good
cool
one.
stuff. Yeah. He said, "Did you guys throw that?" I said, "No." He said, "I'm coming over here. That was too damn close."
Hey, Rick, so I was just checking your numbers, and on YouTube, your your full interview currently has over 263,000 views and
Wow.
It's got to
counting.
be close to the top.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. A lot of people in the comments, they ask, where can we see Rick's photos and Rick's video, his footage? Where can
Right.
people go to see some of the stuff that you've talked about? Do you have a special YouTube channel or anything, or a
Well,
website?
I did, but I left it for so long that I can't get into it. Man, my password is all it. I'm thinking of just starting a new one, But if they go to Facebook, my Facebook page, if they'll go to my postings, it goes way back. I've got a lot of videos. I've got a little bit of Orianthe stuff in there too. I went and I saw her twice this year, and folks, for a entertainer, she is a sweetheart. She took time to engage with me and just be, I mean, I felt like a high school kid. But anyway, great lady. But a lot of there, and it's under my full name of Richard Stewart Taylor, Stewart. I may get a bunch of it together and start something, but I can't get into my old YouTube channel. It's all messed up. So
Yeah, start a fresh one now that you've got kind of like a fresh face on the
yeah,
screen here too.
yep.
What do you got coming up? Anything coming up? Are you going to conferences? It sounds like you're speaking at conferences now.
Uh, I'm going to get something together in the next month or so when all the chiggers and ticks die out. I'm thinking I don't want any responsibility on hosting, but what I'm planning on is maybe getting on Facebook. I've got a lot of followers, and pick out a restaurant here in the suburb area of Rockwall County, Soul Man's Barbecue or something. And if people are interested, come over there for a late lunch. We'll talk, and then I'll drive out to this one spot before dark, and we can all go in there and kind of hang out and see what happens. They are active in there, and I could take 100 people in there, and we could spread out and just see what happens. They are very active in there, and just hang out and see.
I like it.
So yeah,
Well,
the
go ahead,
only
Rick.
caveat is it's not fenced, but it is Corps of Engineer land. Okay, so if they go in there, they probably tell us to leave. But I'm not breaking any laws walking in there. But it is Corps of Engineer land. So
Well, take your chances with that. Well,
Well, we're
I appreciate your time tonight, Rick. Time flew by, didn't it, Jill?
Very much so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't get to
oh, thank-
all your slides, but you can go to his Facebook page. Again, that's under Richard. What's the middle initial? Middle name?
Stewart,
Richard.
Stewart.
Okay,
Last
Richard
name Taylor.
Stewart Taylor. Find it on
Yes.
Facebook, and he'll be friends of friends too. So if you're already on Facebook and you know where Flash of Beauty is, it'll be a little easier to find it that way. Hey, I
Yes.
appreciate your time talking to us today, Richard.
Thank you very much. I have a passion for sharing, and you need to respect them. They're not a monkey, and God forbid anybody try to take one out. It could cost you your life.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again, Rick.
All
Thanks,
right.
Rick.
Thank you.
This has been a Resonance Production podcast. If you have questions or comments, you can email us at bigfootrevealedpod@gmail.com. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for weekly podcasts coming up in the future. If you're just discovering the Flash of Beauty universe, you can watch our documentaries on most streaming platforms.